I found the affair the same way I find missing pallets and mystery fuel losses at work, one small number that didn't belong, repeating like a bad scan until you finally walk the route yourself, and then you can't unsee it. Sunday morning is my reset. Coffee, laptop, bills, and my spending spreadsheet open like a dashboard. It's not paranoia. It's how you keep a household from getting blindsided, same way you keep a warehouse from bleeding money through gray areas. My name's Cole. I'm 34, I live in Houston, and I manage logistics for a company that runs warehouses and delivery routes across the city. I'm up before the sun most days, doing the same math over and over, what moved, what didn't, what cost more than it should've, and where the story doesn't match the receipts. So when I grabbed the mail and the bank confirmations, because the mortgage doesn't care about feelings, I wasn't looking for evidence of anything. I was looking for totals. That's when I saw it, a small transaction. Not big enough to set off fraud alerts. The kind of charge you'd miss if you weren't the type who checks. $18. $42 at a place called Haven House Café plus Bar. I stared at the line item like it was a misrouted shipment. Haven House was on the other side of town, Montrose area, nowhere near her usual Saturday loop. My wife, Paige, was a creature of habit. Grocery store on Westheimer, Target near our place, then home. She didn't pop into Montrose at 2:13 p.m. Unless there was a reason. And 2:13 p.m. mattered because that was the exact window she'd texted me, at the store, grabbing stuff for dinner. I clicked the transaction. It was clean. Taptio Pay. No weird merchant code. No evidence of fraud. Just a place she supposedly wasn't. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she'd stopped for a coffee and forgot. I put a mental sticky note on it and moved on. That's the thing about spreadsheets, you don't argue with them. You wait for the pattern. A week later, the same place, $22. 06, Haven House Café plus Bar. Same day of the week. Same time window. Same story from Paige. Where you at? I'd asked, because I was planning my own errand run. Store. Need shampoo and a few things. Be back soon. Soon meant she was gone for almost 2 hours. A third week later, it happened again. The charges weren't even the part that made my stomach go tight. It was how consistent they were. Like clockwork. Like a standing appointment dressed up as, just errands. If something repeats, it's not an accident. I didn't say anything. I didn't check her phone. I didn't do the dramatic thing people do when they want the truth to turn into a fight. A fight gives people room to rewrite the narrative. I don't chase noise. I pulled up my calendar. I pulled up hers, because we share it for normal married couple reasons like vet appointments and birthdays and, don't forget to pay the HOA. I lined up the dates and times and I looked at what she'd claimed, at the store. At the store. At the store. Same lie, 3 times. The next Saturday, I waited. Not to catch her like some cartoon husband hiding behind bushes, because I needed to know what I was dealing with before I spoke. You don't walk into a damaged warehouse and start shouting. You assess. You document. You figure out what's actually broken. Paige kissed me on the cheek like she always did, grabbed her tote bag, and said, running to the store, "Babe. Need anything?" I looked up from my coffee. "Nope. I'm good." "Okay. Back in a bit." She said it casually, like it was as ordinary as breathing. Her car backed out of the driveway and disappeared. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and left. Houston is a city where you can lose someone without trying if you take one wrong feeder road, but I wasn't playing spy. I followed the most logical route to Montrose, because logic is what people follow when they think nobody's watching. Sure enough, her car wasn't at Kroger. It wasn't near Target. It was parked across the street from Haven House Café Plus Bar, white SUV, the little dent on the rear bumper from when she clipped the garage trim last year. I knew that car like I know my own route sheets. For a second, I sat at the light and just watched. Nothing dramatic happened. Just the quiet click in my brain when a theory becomes fact. I pulled into a side spot, not right in front. Shut off the engine. Stared at the store front. There's this weird moment right before you confirm the worst thing, where you still want to be wrong. I didn't want to go inside. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Still, I got out. The air was humid and thick, like Houston always is, like you're walking through a warm towel. I crossed the street, hands in my pockets, and pushed open the door. Inside, it smelled like espresso and citrus and something sweet. Weekend crowd, laptops, couples, people pretending they weren't eavesdropping. I scanned the room the way I scan a loading dock, fast, systematic, no emotion. Booths. Bar. Corner tables. Then I heard Paige's laugh. Not her polite laugh. Her real one. It came from a table near the back. She was sitting sideways in her chair, leaning in close to a guy in a gray button-down. Her hand was on his forearm, fingers resting like they belonged there. His hand was near her knee under the table, and the angle of his body wasn't casual. She smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen in a while, soft, private, familiar. I didn't need to guess. That's not how people act with someone who's just giving rides. My body went cold, like someone opened a freezer door inside my chest. The guy said something and Paige laughed again, then she reached out and brushed something off his collar like it was intimate, like she'd done it before. He caught her wrist lightly, held it a second longer than necessary, and she didn't pull away. I stood there just long enough to lock the image into my head with the clarity of a timestamp. Then I turned and walked back out. No confrontation. No scene. I got into my truck and sat with both hands on the wheel. The steering wheel was warm from the sun. My fingers were steady. My breathing was steady. Calm doesn't mean numb. Calm means I'm already building the timeline. I drove home like normal. I didn't speed. I didn't call anyone. Because now I knew the truth, and the truth doesn't need volume. It needs proof. Paige came home with grocery bags that didn't make sense, a plastic bag from Walgreens, another from a boutique place I'd never heard of, plus a sad produce bag with 2 limes rolling around in it like an afterthought. "Hey," she said, "bright. Too bright." She kissed my cheek and set the bags on the counter. Traffic was stupid. I watched her move around the kitchen like she was performing Normal Wife from memory. "That so?" I asked. My voice was even. Hum. She started unloading things. Shampoo, candles, some fancy little bottle of bitters or something. I stopped at a couple places. "Which store?" She froze for half a second. "Target first," she said. "Then Walgreens." I nodded like I accepted it. "Cool," I said. "You hungry?" "Starving," she said, laughing lightly. I only grabbed a coffee. A coffee. Haven House. Same window. I kept my face flat and turned back to my laptop like I was still working on bills. The difference was, I wasn't feeling anything I could name yet. Not rage. Not sadness. Just locked in focus. That night we did the usual routine, dinner, Netflix half-watched. Paige curled up next to me on the couch like nothing was wrong, her hand absent-mindedly tracing the seam of my shirt. And I let her. Not for comfort, to see how far she'd take normal. When she went to shower, I didn't follow her. I stared at the ceiling fan and listened to the water run and thought about that guy's hand near her knee. I slept, but it was shallow, the kind where your brain keeps replaying a moment like a dashcam clip. Sunday morning, again, she went out for a quick errand. That's when I decided the confrontation couldn't be emotional. It had to be controlled. Clean. Like the end of a contract. She came back with a bag of dog treats we didn't need and a grin like she'd gotten away with something. "Hey," she said. "I was thinking we could do that thing next weekend, Galveston. Just US." My chest tightened, not because it was romantic, but because it was strategic. People do that when they're cheating, they throw in gestures like blankets over stains. I closed my laptop slowly and looked up at her. "Sit down," I said. Her smile faltered. "What?" "Sit," I repeated. "At the table." She sat. I sat across from her. No TV. No phones. Just bright kitchen light. I folded my hands like I was about to explain a budget. "I went by Haven House yesterday," I said. Paige blinked. "What?" "The café bar in Montrose," I said. "Haven House." Her throat worked. "Why were you?" "I saw you," I said, cutting cleanly through it. "Inside. With him." The silence that followed was thick. Then she laughed, a little, breathy, disbelieving laugh. "Cole, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about you sitting in the back corner," I said, leaning into a guy in a gray button-down. Your hand on his arm. His hand under the table. Her face drained. I wasn't, don't, I said, soft. Don't start with the story. I'm not here for the story. Her eyes flicked away. She picked at a hangnail. It's not what you think, she said. Okay, I said. What is it, then? She exhaled, switching tactics. It's just Mark, she said. From work. Mark, I repeated. And what is Mark? A coworker. And you go to a bar with a coworker every Saturday afternoon? It's not a bar, she snapped, then softened. It's a café. It's 3 weeks in a row, I said. Same day. Same time window. And every time you told me you were at the store. Her eyes widened. You checked my bank statements. She said, offended. I pay the bills, I said. Every Sunday. Like I always do. Your charge stood out because IT didn't match your route. Paige pressed her lips together, thinking. Mark. He's been giving me rides sometimes, she said. Like when my car was acting up. Your car isn't acting up, I said. She flinched. Well, just sometimes. And he's been helpful. Helpful, I echoed. So you lie to me, drive across town, and meet him in private because he's helpful. Paige's eyes filled fast. Cole, please, she said. You're making it sound so what? I asked. So real? She wiped her cheeks, then minimized. Okay, she whispered. Fine. I've been talking to him. He's easy to talk to. He listens. I didn't react. I just waited. She leaned forward. We've been having a rough patch, and you've been so busy, and you're always spreadsheets and work and, so you're saying you cheated, I said. Not an accusation. A checkbox. Her mouth opened. Closed. I didn't, Paige, I said, I watched you touch him. I watched him touch you. Her face cracked. She covered it with her hands. I didn't plan for it, she said. It just happened. I sat there until she looked up, small in her chair like consequences would miss her if she shrank. How long? I asked. She shook her head. Not long. How long, I repeated. Don't guess. She swallowed. A few months, she whispered. Define few. Since October, she said, barely audible. October. It was January now. I nodded once, like a delivery confirmation. And the rides? At first it really was just rides, she started. Stop, I said. I don't need the origin story. Paige's voice rose, defensive. You don't understand. You're always working, and when you're home you're not really here. That was the moment her shame flipped into blame. I held her gaze. I'm here right now, I said quietly. Don't turn this into an audit of my flaws to justify your decisions. She stared, shocked that the blame didn't land. Then bargaining. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll block him. I'll quit my job. I'll do whatever you want. Too fast. Sandbags at a flood. Are you in love with him? I asked. No. Do you want to be with him? No. It was stupid. It was a mistake. A mistake is a wrong turn. 3 months of lies is a system. I stood up slowly. She tensed, expecting yelling. I didn't yell. I'm going for a drive, I said. Don't call him. Don't delete anything. Don't touch our accounts. Her eyes widened. Why? What are you? I'm not doing this like you did, I said, my voice sharpening just a little. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to handle it correctly. Cole, please, she said. Please don't ruin us over what? I asked. Over the fact you built a second life in the same time slot you told me you were buying shampoo. That shut her up. I grabbed my keys and walked out. In the truck, I sat for a full minute before turning the ignition. My hands were steady again. My head was clear. Because now the confrontation was done. Now I had what I needed, the admission, the name, the timeline. And the next step wasn't emotional. It was operational. People think revenge is fire. That's not me. Real revenge is paperwork. It's timestamps. It's making sure the person who tried to run a second life off your back can't take the first one down with them when they get scared. I drove until my thoughts lined up into columns. Then I logged into our bank app and took screenshots, every one that mattered. I pulled the last 4 months of statements and searched the merchant name. There were more charges than the 3 I'd noticed at first, some smaller, $9. 73, $12. 11, a coffee. A pastry. But the pattern held. Same day. Same window. Sometimes a second charge an hour later, like someone bought another round. I exported the PDFs. I emailed them to myself. Then I saved them into a folder on a drive page didn't know existed, labeled something boring like Vehicle Maintenance 2025. If you label a folder important, IT becomes important to whoever's snooping. If you label it Oil Change Receipts, nobody touches it. I didn't confront her that night, again. Confrontation without action is free information for the other side. I went home like normal. Paige was on the couch, eyes puffy, holding her phone like it weighed 100 pounds. You're back, she said. I am, I said. She started to speak, apologies, explanations, begging, and I cut it off with one sentence, I'm going to bed. We'll talk when I'm ready. Cole, please. I love you. I looked at her. No, I said, not mean. You love the stability. You love the life. If you loved me, you wouldn't have risked both. Then I went upstairs. I slept better than I expected. Not because IT didn't hurt, because the uncertainty was gone. Now it was math. Monday at 6:12 a.m. I got up like it was a workday. Paige was still asleep. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and started separating my life from hers the way you isolate a contaminated shipment before it spreads. First, my paycheck. We had a joint checking account where my salary landed. Which meant if she panicked, she could drain it in seconds. I opened a new account at a different bank. Not a new account under the same login. A different institution. Different cards. Different password recovery. Clean. Then I changed my direct deposit through my employer portal. 5 minutes. 2-factor. Confirmation email. Done. Next, shared cards. I didn't cancel them, cancellation creates noise. I froze them. Freezing is silent. I froze every shared card and moved my subscriptions to the new account, utilities, insurance, phone bill. Anything critical to my daily operation. Then I changed passwords, email first. Then bank. Then phone carrier. Then any account that could reset another account. It's like securing a warehouse, you don't just lock the front door and ignore the side gate. I printed copies of important documents while she slept, marriage certificate, house deed, car titles, insurance policies, tax returns. I scanned them and put them on the same drive with the oil change receipts. I put originals into a folder and left it in my truck. Because if the house becomes hostile, your documents shouldn't be inside it. Paige came downstairs around 8, hair messy, face anxious. Why are you up so early? Work, I said. Can we talk? She asked. I took a sip of coffee and looked at her like she was a vendor trying to renegotiate terms after failing an audit. Not right now, I said. Her eyes went wet. Cole, I'll do anything. I nodded slowly. I'm sure you will. I grabbed my keys and left for work. At 10:30 a.m. I sat in a quiet office with a divorce attorney who looked like she'd seen every version of human stupidity and never once been impressed by it. She asked for facts. I gave her facts, dates. Charges. Admission. The name. I slid my folder across the table like a shipping manifest. She flipped through it and nodded. You did the right thing not confronting her aggressively, she said. And the financial separation was smart. I'm not trying to punish her, I said. I'm trying to make sure she can't punish me. We talked about the house. About Texas laws. About what documentation matters. About what not to do. No threats. No moving money in a way that looks like concealment. No emotional texts. Keep everything clean. Do you want to file? She asked. I thought about Paige's laugh in that café. Her hand on his arm like my marriage was a coat she could take off when she felt like it. Yes, I said. I want to file. That evening, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my truck outside our house and watched Paige through the window as she paced with her phone. I knew what she was doing. Calling someone. A friend. A sister. Maybe Mark. That's when I made my move. I didn't call Mark. I found Mark's girlfriend. People leave trails, LinkedIn, company pages, tagged photos. Within 20 minutes, I had his full name. Within 30, I had a social profile with tagged photos. And there she was. Girlfriend. Maybe wife. Either way, someone who deserved the truth. I didn't send, hey girlie. I sent facts, who I was, who Paige was, who Mark was, that the affair had been ongoing since at least October, per Paige's admission, that they met regularly at Haven House during errand hours, that I had screenshots of transactions and dates, that I had personally seen them together. Then I attached proof, 2 screenshots, 1 statement excerpt, 1 date highlighted. No drama. Just a clean file drop. Her reply came 2 hours later, thank you. I knew something was wrong. Can we talk? We talked that night, 2 strangers connected by the same man's lies. Her name was Danny. He told me she was just a coworker, she said. He said he was helping her because her husband works a lot. He told Paige the same, I said. That he was just helping. Danny exhaled. Okay. So what do we do? That's where we became a team, not emotionally. Operationally. We coordinated a double exit. The attorney filed fast. That Friday, because timing matters, I let Paige run the lie one more time. She stood in the kitchen, purse on her shoulder, and said, "I'm going to the store. Need anything?" I looked up from my coffee. "No," I said. "I'm good." She smiled like she'd gotten away with it again. "Okay. Love you. Drive safe," I said. She left. And 2 hours later, when she came back with that same fake normal energy, she found a process server waiting. Not a screaming match. Just a man in a plain shirt handing her an envelope. Paige's face went white. "What is this?" she whispered. The server said the standard line. Paige's hands shook as she took the papers. Her eyes scanned the first page and then snapped up to me, wild. "Cole, what is this? You filed?" I stayed seated. Calm. "Yes," I said. Her breathing turned ragged. "We can fix this." "Why would you?" "Because you didn't make a mistake," I said, voice low. "You made a routine." Paige stepped toward me like she might collapse. "Please. Please don't do this." "This is happening," I said. "Read the papers." And right then, her phone buzzed. A call. She looked down. Her face changed. "Mark." "Of course." She answered, shaking. Mark, whatever he said on the other end made her eyes widen further, because at that exact moment, across town, Danny was confronting him with the same kind of evidence, dates, receipts, timeline, laid out like a case file. Paige's mouth opened, but no words came out. She gripped the counter to stay upright. And for the first time since this started, I saw it land on her, not guilt, not shame. Reality. The affair wasn't a private fantasy anymore. It was a collapsing structure, and she was standing underneath it. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just watched her life start to fall apart, quietly, cleanly, exactly as planned. The day she got served, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. Paige cried in the kitchen until her throat got raw. "I can't believe you did this," she said. "I can't believe you do this to me." That's when I realized she thought she'd get to decide how this ended. Like the betrayal was hers to manage, hers to confess on her timeline, hers to spin into a rough patch we overcame. I sat there while she spiraled. It wasn't that I didn't care. It was that my feelings weren't in charge anymore. The moment I'd watched her lean into him at that café, the relationship stopped being a relationship and became a risk management problem. And once my brain put something in that category, it treats it the way it treats a blown budget or a stolen shipment: contain it, document it, end it. But feelings don't go away just because you don't hand them the steering wheel. That night, after Paige went upstairs, I stayed on the couch with the TV off. I could hear the refrigerator cycle. The ceiling fan. My own breathing. And I kept replaying the stupid details, her laugh, the way she touched his sleeve, the way she texted me, at the store, while she sat with him like she didn't owe me honesty for even 1 second. The next morning I woke up at 4:50 a.m. and checked my accounts anyway. No surprise withdrawals. No new charges. That's when disgust hit, not the sex part. The disrespect. Months. October to January. Dozens of opportunities to stop. Instead she built a routine around lying to my face and letting me fund the stability she was cheating inside of. By midday, Paige started sending long texts while I was at work: "Please come home early. We need to talk. I'll do anything. You're throwing everything away. That last one snapped something in me, because she still framed it like I was the demolition crew and not the person who lit the match. I didn't answer. The anger came later, on an ordinary Tuesday, at a gas station off the feeder road. I was filling up my truck, watching the numbers climb, and my brain connected it to her. All the hours I worked, all the stress of keeping our life running smooth. And she took that smooth life and used it like cover. The pump clicked off at $74.11 and I just stood there holding the nozzle while heat rose behind my eyes. I didn't cry. I didn't punch anything. I just felt this hot, steady rage, and then I put it back in its sheath and drove to work. Paige's behavior changed in phases. At first she begged. Then she got angry. Then she tried to bargain. One night she cornered me in the hallway. "Just tell me what you need," she said. I looked at her and realized she still didn't get it. "I needed you to not do it," I said. I said I'm sorry. "I'm not talking about regret," I said. "I'm talking about character. You didn't slip. You scheduled it." She tried to pivot into my faults: busy, distant, work, and I cut it off. "Don't make me the reason you chose to lie." Later that night I heard her crying upstairs and I felt grief, not for her, for what we used to be. For the version of my life where my biggest worry was a late delivery or a busted tire, not a second life in the same time slot she told me she was buying shampoo. I talked to Danny a couple more times. Mark didn't deny it. He ran the same script: stress, misunderstood, it happened, then, you're controlling. Danny laughed hollow and said, like I forced him to fall into her. It was sickeningly comforting to hear the same script in another house. It meant the pattern was real. It also meant they weren't special. They were just two people who wanted to feel good and didn't care who they burned. Sadness replaced rage, not because I forgave her, because anger takes energy, and my body was tired. I started noticing little things: how quiet the house felt. How food tasted like nothing. How home didn't feel safe anymore. I slept with my phone on the nightstand, not because I thought Paige would hurt me physically, but because I didn't trust what panic makes people do, financially, legally, emotionally. And then acceptance started. Not peace, clarity. I stopped asking, why? There's no answer that makes betrayal reasonable. There's only the fact it happened, repeatedly, deliberately. One morning, driving before sunrise, I realized I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about my route, my day, my plans. Where I'd live. What I'd keep. What I'd rebuild. I wasn't going to drown in this. It hurt. It still does. But pain is not the same thing as destruction. By the time the paperwork was moving, the house stopped feeling like a home and started feeling like a shared warehouse, two people walking around the same square footage, careful not to bump into each other. Paige tried different versions of herself: soft, angry, bargaining, and sometimes almost normal. Normal was the worst. It makes you forget the poison is still in the bloodstream. But I didn't forget. A week after she got served, Paige came into the kitchen holding her phone out like a peace offering. "I blocked him," she said. "Look." I didn't take the phone. "Okay," I said. "I told my boss I want to transfer," she added. "Why aren't you saying anything?" she asked, frantic. "Isn't that what you wanted?" I set my mug down gently. "No," I said. "What I wanted was a wife who didn't need a plan to stop." She blinked, stunned. "You're doing this because you're scared now," I said. "Not because you understand what you did." 2 nights later she tried again, blocking the hallway. "I know you're hurt, but you weren't exactly present either." There it was, the pivot. I stared at her. "I can take accountability for being busy," I said. "I can't take accountability for you lying for months." "People make mistakes," she said. Yes, I said. And then they live with the results. This part was almost clinical. Once Danny confronted Mark and his world lit up, he vanished from Paige's story like smoke. And Paige's panic got worse. One afternoon she came home looking wrecked. "He's not answering," she said. "Who?" I asked, even though I knew. "Mark," she whispered. She realized what I'd already known: she wasn't special. She was convenient. And she wanted back into my house like nothing happened. That's not love. That's a survival reflex. The real decision happened on a Thursday morning in early January, before the sun came up. I was in the garage packing boxes, tools, paperwork, stuff I didn't want misplaced. Paige came out in socks, wrapped in a hoodie. "Are you moving out?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "So that's it. 10 years and you're just done." I set the box down and looked at her. "I was done the moment I watched you lie to me in real time," I said. "I just didn't say it out loud yet." "I'm still your wife," she said. "No," I said softly. "You're my legal problem right now. So you're just going to throw me away?" She snapped. "You threw us away in October," I said. "I'm just taking out what's already been trashed." I moved into a short-term rental first, furnished, simple, close enough to work. I took what mattered: clothes, documents, personal stuff. I left the rest for the legal process to divide. I told my family the truth in one phone call. No theatrics. Paige tried calling more than once. I didn't block her. Blocking creates drama. I silenced her notifications and let communication go through attorneys. Clean channels. Danny texted me weeks later: he moved out. "I'm done." I replied, "Same." The last time Paige and I spoke face-to-face was at mediation. Neutral office. Neutral tone. Paige looked tired. Smaller. Like someone who'd lost control of the story she thought she was writing. She leaned toward me and whispered, "I never thought you'd actually leave." I looked at her calmly. "That's the problem," I said. "You thought there was no consequence big enough to reach you." "Do you hate me?" she asked. I considered it. "No," I said. "Hate means you still matter in a certain way. I don't have that kind of energy for you anymore." I got my own place after the rental, not flashy, just clean, quiet, mine. I kept my routines because routines are how you rebuild stability when trust is gone. Every Sunday, I still check my accounts. Not because I'm afraid. Because it reminds me, the truth always leaves a trace. If something repeats, it's not an accident. And if you ever find yourself staring at a charge that doesn't fit the route, don't scream. Don't beg. Don't chase. Document. Confirm. Protect yourself. Then act like a person who respects his own life enough to stop sharing it with someone who treated it like a temporary convenience. Paige's life fell apart the way unstable systems always do, quietly at first, then all at once. Mark disappeared. Her story ran out of room to hide. Mine didn't bounce back. It rebuilt the way everything in logistics gets rebuilt, one clear, controlled step at a time. And that's the only advice I have that I know is true: when someone shows you they can lie to your face on a schedule, believe them. Then make sure their access to your life is the first thing that ends.